Welcome to the first emergency pod.
Hey, Mr. Nicholas.
How you doing?
Hanging in there, man. How about you?
Good. I'm okay. I thought the news
Yeah.
we just heard was interesting.
Yeah. Well, before we get into that, I'm
Yeah.
just, you and I talk about True Detective and shows and stuff all the time. I was just curious, did you watch the latest episode?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay when I'm sitting this far from my mic?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I have sinus issues today, so I prefer to stay away from the camera. Yeah, I know we talked about it before, and you didn't like it very
Dude,
much this season.
it sucks.
I think it's good.
It's so boring.
I think it's really good.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
It's
well,
so boring. Nothing happens. Everybody's ugly. I don't want to see Jodie Foster banging a bunch of dudes, and that's basically all we have to work with. And it's not a good storyline to me. I don't like it at all.
So I'll give you my take on it. I think that the storyline leaves a lot of mystery in it that seems supernatural in some ways.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. That's
Yeah,
just my thing. I like sci-fi, supernatural, X-Files, stuff like that. Like I like those kind of shows, and it does leave that to the imagination. But I don't think it's I don't think it's a supernatural thing. I think it's all a trickery.
Yeah, it's probably going to be explained, but it's just so slow, and it's just a dumb storyline to me personally. But I didn't like the second season. I love the first season. Thought it was amazing. And then I thought, okay, second was okay. I watched it, but man, I hear you, and I'm probably in the minority on that. I know a lot of people probably love it. I'm barely hanging on. My wife likes to watch it still. I find myself checking Twitter and doing other things.
See, I didn't like the last two seasons. I love the first one, maybe the best show that ever.
Last two, yeah.
The first season was maybe the best season of any show on
Hands
the
down.
network.
Oh man, it's incredible.
This one, like, I don't really enjoy Jodie Foster. I just always think of Silence of the Lambs with her.
Yeah.
It's weird. It doesn't fit. But I do like the fact that everything's in the dark and it's kind of leaves this mystery open, and the people in the ice that are frozen, being basically looks like they've been frozen to death, like in fear, right? That's interesting to me, because how does that really happen? They'll have some stupid excuse, I'm sure, at the end.
Oh yeah, I mean,
but it doesn't really, like, it wouldn't make sense, right? Whatever they make up. The other piece is her ex-partner. What's the Indian girl's name, or Native American girl's name? You know what I'm talking about? The cop.
I can't remember.
She keeps seeing stuff.
Navarro.
She keeps seeing stuff. That isn't
there, right?
That may or may not be there.
Right.
My take on it is that there's nothing there. She's just having PTSD episodes based on her past and her mother, and she's visualizing things that aren't, because every time she sees something, there's like somebody pointing, and that's what her mom did in that video, the flashback. So I don't think that that's real, and I'm kind of hoping for a supernatural aspect, but we'd be totally off key for that show.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be a normal thing for that show to do,
Yeah, whatever. It's boring. Why
you want to talk about it then, man?
I mean, because I do feel. I mean, because I want to give you my opinion on it. I'm
just messing with you.
The next Big Little Lies. I love that show. That show's amazing.
Yeah, you like all those girly shows, like
I do like
Vanderpump Rules, and The Hills.
No, not The Hills.
OC.
No,
maybe that was me. Maybe that was me who likes The Hills.
Yeah, that was you.
And I've never even watched. I've watched Vanderpump Rules maybe twice, like 2 episodes, and then I've never seen the other one. Was it Pretty Little Lies?
Big Little Lies.
Big Little Lies. I'm thinking Pretty Little Liars.
Well, before we get into just the Commanders stuff, obviously, what is it that we say? Click and like and subscribe. And all that.
Like, share, and subscribe. I do want to say this: the last video that you and I posted got the most views we've ever gotten. It sounds really low in comparison, but this is only the 5th episode. This is a 6th now, but that was the 5th episode.
Yeah,
we're still tallying likes. It's over our views. We have over 160 views on Twitter, on YouTube. And I don't know if it's the title we use or just how interested they are in the subject or what. We'll see after this episode.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
That's a good trend in the right direction. I know people that have YouTube videos up that 2 years later, they still have 6 likes. So the fact that we've come into it like that, it's not like a giant accomplishment, but like little wins, I think are important if we want to build the channel. And I think we are doing a good job of kind of starting it off and kind of creating on Facebook and trying to get interactive. People want
we want people on here too. I mean, obviously, it's more fun when there's other people, because it's most of us are all friends and it's really good to get everybody's take. So
we're not interested in bringing on random people unless we have to.
Right.
But we'd like to bring on people that we know individually, which we've done 3 times. So, and we'll do again, hopefully next week when we start getting into more of draft talk and then getting into the quarterback competition between who's going to go second overall after Caleb Williams. So that's kind of how I feel about where our trajectory will go next. But before we do that, I think the best thing to do is to start off with what happened today or just a few minutes ago.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing is, in case somebody's not really paying attention, let's just back up for a second. Obviously, we hired a GM, Adam Peters. There's been a lot of talk about who we were going to hire as a head coach. The top of the list was this Ben Johnson guy, the offensive coordinator for the Lions. It got to the point where it was almost like a done deal. You'd see a lot of reports, oh, it's definitely going to happen. We even had, who was it? Boomer Esiason guaranteed that this was going to happen. And
Dan Quinn?
Boomer Esiason did on TV. Yeah.
Okay.
No, that this was going to happen with Ben Johnson, that it was a done deal. And even you and I talked about it, we all thought it was going to happen, and then boom, it didn't happen. So then there were all these other names. We've interviewed several other people. We've interviewed Mike McDonald. Well, he ended up going to the Seahawks. We interviewed the defensive guy from Baltimore, along with the defensive guy from the Lions, twice. We interviewed Bobby Slowick once. So it's gotten to the point where, all these – we're the only team left that hasn't hired anybody. You get a lot of talk about, we kind of blew it. We botched this. And and the latest news is Dan Quinn, who, of course, was the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. That's pretty much a done deal. Schefter's reported that. So here we are. So why are the emergency pod here? And I think the reason is, look, I am a diehard Commanders fan, right? We all need to pump the brakes. We need to calm down. We need to put the gun away. We need to know that this is not the end. And that's really why I think this is an important podcast, because a lot's happened. Now, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to talk on here and act like I'm better than everybody. And this is not a big deal. Trust me, I'm disappointed too. I'm really disappointed. I wanted this Ben Johnson dude. He sounds great. But if you really dissect it, and that's what I wanted to do, I don't think that we need to worry, really. So before I mention any of that, what are your thoughts, Alex? I don't want to just I
wrote some things down. My first thought was underwhelming.
Yeah, it's a good word.
Yeah, I watched some stuff last night. The sports junkies a little bit fell down a rabbit hole, kind of their thought process with it.
Yeah.
I thought a good point was made about this. Maybe they're not being that far out of who they wanted anyway.
That's right.
So Dan Quinn may have been second or third on that list. He may have been first, but I kind of doubt it because they've had time to hire and they haven't done it.
Yeah.
The other thought was they should wait and keep interviewing and bring Vrabel in, but we don't even know if Vrabel wants to be in Washington.
Yeah. He hasn't interviewed anywhere.
He hasn't interviewed, but like 2 places. So that's not really a thing. And then also, I mean, this weekend is the Senior Bowl. They need to get people in place. They need to get scouts ready. They need to do all these different things. You don't know what kind of changes they're going to make. So, he's underwhelming. I think that he's a okay defensive coordinator. I have firsthand knowledge of what he does when his back's to the wall and he doesn't have or he doesn't have an answer. He doesn't adjust. And I didn't like it.
What's your firsthand knowledge? You mean just against
Buffalo playing them this year?
Yeah.
We ran the ball down their throat.
Oh, you did. Yeah.
They refused to adjust what they were doing to stop what we were just running the ball down. We ran the ball like 50 times. That's not something Buffalo does. So, and they keep trotting out a linebacker that's 210 pounds on the football field instead of moving Micah Parsons over to middle linebacker like he played in college or outside linebacker.
Yeah.
And just making him do different things because he can do it. He's a first-round pick doing either one. He wasn't a pass rusher until they were drafted him. So why not move him back there for the time being and then let Lawrence or whoever else do work? And he just didn't do it. He just kept letting them go through it. And the same thing happened against the Packers. He went to the Packers game thinking that he was going to deploy the same strategy, and they ate him up. You know, like
last game.
What are you doing? No, his track record's good. He went to a Super Bowl. Those are good things. Yeah. He's got his record is very similar to Ron Rivera.
Please don't say that.
Ron Rivera came to Washington. That's going to scare you, but that's what it is. And he went to Super Bowl too.
Okay. See, on the surface, that's true, Alex, but you got to understand, Ron Rivera went in there with the stupid Dan Snyder regime where he was the CEO of everything. Ron was running everything.
Yeah.
Different because this guy, Dan Quinn, who has a lot of experience, he's coming in as head coach. He's not doing all that other dumb stuff. We have a guy that we want doing that stuff, Adam Peters, the GM.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, he's not the defensive coordinator. We still, need to hire somebody. And obviously, he's going to have a lot of influence on that. But we don't know what path we're going to go for that. I think he's being hired because of his experience. He did turn around the Falcons. He went to the Super Bowl. They blew it against the Patriots.
Yep.
But that was a crappy team. He turned around the Cowboys. Whatever you say about it, I get it. Their last game, they blew it. Against the Cowboys, they blew it. But they went from a crap defense, and I have firsthand experience with that. They went from crap defense to top 5 elite defense. I mean, that's no easy task. A couple other things. I want to go back to Ben Johnson for a minute because we don't know. Think about it. It's not like Ben went to another team. Okay. He stayed with his team. So it's not like he chose somebody over us.
Yeah.
I listened to a couple of his interviews just over the last few weeks thinking maybe this was going to be our guy. I like what he said about his offense and stuff, but I was not impressed with his demeanor, his mannerism. I know that sounds silly, but this is a guy that is supposed to lead the team. He doesn't have any experience with that. He's very soft-spoken. He sounds like an 18-year-old.
Yeah, he's younger than us.
He's socially awkward a little bit, and he's coming from a team where he didn't command the team. We know who commands the Lions. That's Dan Campbell. That dude is alpha.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And from what I hear, the defensive coordinator was the next in line that really got attention. It wasn't Ben Johnson.
Right.
So a couple things could have happened here. Ben Johnson might have realized he's not ready for that. And he might have wanted to back off. It might be that the commander said, look, this is what we're looking for. And maybe Ben Johnson got vibes that we weren't sure about him. And then he was like, you know what? I'm just calling all this off. I'm going to stay with the Lions. That's kind of the feel I got.
Yeah.
Not to mention it was really poor practice of him as agent to the way they did it, obviously, right? Calling when they're on the way. So I think we need to really remember all that. And again, as a Commanders fan who has been through so much, Redskins fan who's been through so much for 20 years, we haven't had a real GM. That is my primary focus is we have a real GM. This guy's awesome. He was the best one out there, Adam Peters. Everybody wanted him. And that's what's more important, the GM or the head coach? I think it's the GM. This guy's picking our players, and he's not doing anything quick. He's taking his time. A lot of people think we waited too long, but that's not true. It's not like we could have interviewed him any sooner. We interviewed him the minute he was available.
Yeah.
So I think everybody just needs to pump the brakes. And I say that not acting like I'm not part of that. I, too, need to pump the brakes. I wanted to kill myself. I was so upset because we thought we were getting everything perfect, and then this happens. So I'm okay with Dan Quinn because if you go back to Adam Peters' comments when he got hired and he was interviewed, somebody asked him, what are you looking for in a head coach? They're looking for somebody that can leadership. That sounds really dumb, duh. But I get it. He wants somebody that's going to really influence and lead. And I'm sorry, I kind of didn't feel that with Ben Johnson. He seems super smart. I don't think he was ready for that position.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if the Commanders concluded that or he did himself, but I think that Adam Peters is doing what he wants to do. And Dan Quinn fits that mold because of his experience. He's going to have a head coach role. He's not going to have a coach-centric role where he's running everything, and I'm glad. So I think with what Quinn is going to be used for, I'm still really excited about that, even if it wasn't our first pick.
Yeah. I wonder if he knows that he's not the first pick.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I don't, hopefully that doesn't hurt. And he probably won't hurt him because he's been fired before.
Yeah.
And he's probably just happy to have a job as a head coach. And I do think that he's I think he's a good mind. I think he knows what he's doing. That's the other piece. Maybe this is a first-time GM. This is going to be a first-time owner. Do they really want to start with a first-time coach and throw it all together? That's more learning curve. I mean, I think that with Peters, he's going to be fine. He's learned under some of the best.
Yeah, yeah.
The owner has no idea probably what he's doing. That's why he brought in consultants.
Well, that's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he did a good job by doing that. I liked what the ownership has done. So this isn't the end of the world as far as that goes. It's a 3-year
and you're
trial.
right. I mean, Ben Johnson, obviously the dude is really talented, but he doesn't have any experience as a head coach, and maybe that's not his forte. Same thing for Slowick. Same thing for these other guys. So I'm excited about it. I'm curious what Cowboys fans think, because curious what they think about Dan Quinn. But the rumor on the street is they're really interested in Ron Rivera as defensive coordinator
for Washington.
That'd
be
the Cowboys.
Oh, okay. So, I was like, that'd be unprecedented for them to bring him back.
Cowboys are. So I'm curious what Cowboys fans think about that. If we end up, swapping coaches here.
I'm surprised he still wants to coach.
I think he wants to prove to himself and everybody out there that, okay, he totally screwed up. He was not meant for that CEO type of role.
Yeah.
But he's a good coach.
Right.
And he wants to get back to the basics, I think, and prove that. Yeah.
I just, with all the cancer and everything else that he went through, I just kind of assumed he would retire, but he didn't. But
yeah.
And so I had something else written down too. Hold on real quick.
Yeah, but I know a couple people commented like this is a missed opportunity. If you believe in the GM, which to me is again the most important thing, we already won. Dan Snyder's gone. We got a badass GM. Let him do his thing. If you believe in the GM, you're not sweating it, and it might end up being a blessing in disguise that we didn't hire somebody like that.
Yeah, that team needs some structure.
It needs structure, and
Dan Quinn can do that.
Anything fast. Here's an example. It's not exactly a perfect parallel, but everybody wanted us to draft, who, Chase Young, number 2.
Yeah,
that was the right move. Everybody thought it was the safe move. Guess what? We did it.
Yep,
and he's a bust.
Oh,
so everybody thought, that's a safe move. That's the thing to do. Get Ben Johnson. We don't know that for sure. Maybe he didn't. He knows that too. That's why he stayed in Detroit. He didn't get hired by another team.
I'll be clear. I like Slowick better because I thought his schemes were more creative, and he was doing things in game to adjust that. Yeah, I didn't see from Ben Johnson. Look at what happened in the 3 playoff games they played. The second half in every single game, the offense stalled out in Detroit every time. They happened to squeak by and win 2, and in the third one, they got their butts handed to them in the second half, and they got outscored 21-3. That can't happen. I don't care if Campbell gave up 2 field goal opportunities. I don't care. That doesn't matter to me, because your offense that scored 27 in the first half or 24, whatever it was, needs to be able to score in the second half more than 3 points or 0 points in 2 of the other games. And they happened to squeak by because they were better teams than those, and they played a better team, and they just fell apart. I saw it in the Thanksgiving game. Ben Johnson did the same thing. He came out, Green Bay punched him in the mouth, and he had no recovery strategy, and they got their ass kicked.
And here's the other thing. Whose call was it to pass on 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2 at the goal line? That was not a good call.
Yeah, what are you doing
in that situation?
You have 2 good running backs. Run the ball. Run the damn ball.
Maybe that was Dan Quinn. I mean, Dan Campbell that, override it, but that sounds like an offensive coordinator move to me.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying he's a bad offensive coordinator. I think he's good.
Either, but
and he's turned Goff. He's had to put a resurgence in Goff's career. I think he does certain things he likes to do, but just like Dan Quinn with his defenses, they're both good coordinators, but as soon as they get punched in the mouth, I wonder what they do to recover. The good news is that Washington needs a defensive mind. Their defense is in shambles, in my opinion. Yeah. They totally whiffed, and this is where I would give myself a pat on the back. You whiffed on freaking Emmanuel Forbes. I knew you were going to whiff on him, and I got sucked back in from your dumbass.
I convinced you that he was.
I was like, well, maybe he's good. He got like 10 interceptions in 1 year.
Oh, Ron Rivera convinced me too, and so did the media. They were all on top of that too. Man, that was
You're like, Kevin Sheehan says he's amazing. Let's get him. And I'm like, all right, well, maybe it's a good idea. And then I'm just like, he weighs 160 pounds. That guy can't cover AJ Brown, and we saw.
I don't think that. Do you think that's the issue? Really, I think he's just getting burned. I don't see.
Well, yeah. So like
knocked over, he's just getting burned.
There's a part of your game as a corner that you have to be able to potentially jam a receiver.
Yeah.
If that part's out of your game, the receiver gets clean releases, and they can just unload their whole release package on you every single play, and all of a sudden you're like, you don't know where to go. You're off balance. Yeah. If you can't change it up, that you're missing a whole big part of your game that he just can't even attempt.
All right, well, congratulations, Alex.
I'm right. Thank you. Yeah.
Good
Give
work.
Wait.
Nice work.
Yeah.
But I want to say one thing about Mike Vrabel. You know, I think it's clear to me this guy's very much like Bill Belichick. He wants to run everything. That's not what we're looking for. We have
at least part of it. Yeah, at least part, not all of it, but maybe part of it. And I think that's why he didn't even get an interview.
No,
like that was telling.
That's not what we're looking for, and I don't want that anymore. Mm-hmm. We've dealt with that for 20. We didn't have a GM for 20 years. We dealt with idiots.
Yeah,
Vinny Serrato and then Bruce Allen. These guys, let this guy give him a chance. It's really easy, including myself, to be super disappointed. I'm not excited about Dan Quinn at all, but I am excited about our GM and his vision, whatever that might be. So we'll see.
Yeah. That's fair with Vrabel. He's he's not a Belichick disciple. He played for Belichick, but he didn't coach for him. But I do think he takes pieces of it.
He ran the show over there. He's the
one. I know. He took pieces of it with him. When he got hired, he was like, the only thing I know is Belichick. Let me bring it in, and I'm going to be a Belichick-like coach, because he obviously probably thinks Belichick is the best coach of all time, right? So he's going to use that. And if you didn't even attempt to interview him either, there was definitely you were like trying to create a clear delineation from owner to GM to coach. And Dan Quinn's perfect. He was in the Cowboys organization where that's what they preach. Their coach doesn't have any power, he's an order taker, so that also culturally maybe the thing. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't hate it. I just think it's underwhelming at the end of the day.
Well, I think he was probably fired because he's the one that traded Brown away, AJ Brown.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, and you know what? I get it. I mean, it was a shot, but I think that was the wrong move. And I don't want a coach like that. I want somebody just focusing on strategery and all that.
Strategery.
So,
yeah. That's probably right. I liked Vrabel. I thought he should have been the top coach on the market, coaching wise.
I like him too, but
we don't see it all, right? We don't know what they're like behind closed doors or what teams want to deal with. If I was a brand new owner, I wouldn't want a coach trying to push me around either. Yeah, like, I'm the owner. I'm the billionaire. I run stuff. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and you're going to listen.
Now, I do feel like he's one of the better in-game coaches, like real-time decision making and stuff like that. I feel like he's one of the best. There's some coaches that are absolutely god-awful in that.
Look what he did with that team. He took Ryan Tannehill, who was a mediocre quarterback, maybe above average, and put him on the team and saw a vision. He traded for him when he already had a franchise quarterback that wasn't working out or was kind of in the middle. He was doing okay. They were competitive. And he said, I can do something with this guy who would basically just run the not read option, run the I don't know why I'm my brain farting right now. Anyway, who could run that
RPO?
offense with a running game, huh?
RPO?
RPO. I don't know why I
Yeah.
thought read option. So they can run the RPO and could just play action pass to Derrick Henry and throw to AJ Brown, let your receiver and your running back do work. And then our defense is going to be solid, structurally. It wasn't always like perfect when it comes to talent.
Right.
So that was good vision by him. Now they had a ceiling on that they couldn't get through. At the end of the day, I don't think it's an awful decision. I think Dan Quinn was probably, if it was up to me, he would have been like my fourth choice, but to them, he may have been option 2,
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway, anything else you want to go over?
Not really. I just, if
you want to give a little glimpse into what we're going to talk about next time with Jaden Daniels and Drake May.
Yeah, for sure. So I think what we want to take away from this, Commanders fans, I'm talking to you because I'm diehard, hang in there. It's okay. I think that we all feel like we botched this a little bit, but if you really, really analyze it and look at it from the lens of the GM, I don't think so. And I think we're on the right path and things are going to work out. So hang in there. Alex. I think we both have an opinion on who the Commanders should pick at number 2, assuming Caleb Williams is gone at number 1. We don't agree on that. We're going to probably talk about that next week.
Yep. I think we'll go into it next week. Just kind of, we won't say who likes who better, but we have our reasons. I want to prepare for it a little bit so we can kind of rattle off statistically and, what they bring to the table with their traits, things like that. We've got the next step for the Commanders is the quarterback situation and figuring it out.
Yep.
And how do you address that? Do you you have to draft a quarterback at 2, I think, but there is other options. You could take Marvin Harrison and then double dip and get a JJ McCarthy or something like that in round 2, who's also pretty good.
I think we got a couple people that wanted us to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think some of the guys that are wanted are having, one of them I know, Penix having a really good day or really good week at the Senior Bowl practices. So I don't know if I think he'll be the 4th quarterback taken. So I don't know if he'll even be there in round 2. So that'll have something you have to kind of weigh out, but you'll eventually get to it. I did want to throw in one house cleaning thing on Buffalo too. We hired our interim offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, who I think was a natural good decision. I interviewed other guys, including Eric Bieniemy. And Brady, the offense got a little bit worse statistically when he came in, but it was more effective in some ways. We were able to overcome turnovers better, and he also gave a shot in the arm to the running game, which I don't really care about typically. I just want a running game to be effective, not volume wise, but quality wise.
Yeah, so about running.
But the one thing about him is all the things that we just talked about, Dan Quinn and Ben Johnson. He adjusts in the middle of the game. And you can feel it. That's the thing. So like before, Ken Dorsey something wasn't working, just keep hammering it home.
Yeah.
Joe Brady would go, okay, what do we do? Dallas, the weather's bad. We're not throwing the ball that great because it's too slippery. He was like, we're going to run it. We'll see what happens. And
let me ask you a question on that, Alex. And I'm not trying to make this longer, but it brought up something.
Yeah.
I always thought that the reason for that and the reason you don't see a lot of coaches adjusting so quickly is because their whole game plan is revolving around a certain set of plays, a certain type of look. And for you to suddenly change that after a week of practicing it is pretty hard to do. Is that right?
Yeah, sort of. Like you're still going to have the full playbook to pull from if you need to, but they prepare in some ways to be able to adjust probably within some parameters, right? And for instance, what I mean more than changing up the play calls, more of just the structure. So passing game's not working against Dallas, but the running game was working great. Most teams would be like, all right, I feel like we're running too much. We need to go back to the pass. They were like, no, we're just going to keep going because they can't stop it. Why would we stop doing it? We're just going to keep shoving it down their throat most coaches would have still abandoned it, gone back to the original game plan, but he stuck with that piece of the playbook that was ready for the game.
Yeah.
He had that prepared, and he kept running the same 4 or 5 plays over and over again in the run game, and it worked. Yeah. So I'm not saying you can completely change your game plan and throw in a bunch of stuff that you didn't install during the week, but there is stuff that's there that you can pull from and go, okay, let's move now to this more. We'll pivot to this 25% of the playbook that we weren't going to use 75% of the game. Now we're going to turn it into 75% of the game.
Yeah.
So I like that with him. And then
you're excited about that, right? That's what you want.
Yeah, I like that piece. I because he's such a good adjuster, I'm very happy with the fact that with trusting him in his ability in the offseason and go, okay, what do we not do well? How do we improve it? And what are we going to do from here? Yeah. And that's the piece that I think is very important, because a lot of coaches will just keep sticking to what they're doing and just tweaking it. He's going to probably piece together something like, okay, he was using Dorsey's playbook. It wasn't his playbook. So I was throwing my stuff into this, but it really isn't mine. Let me mold it. And this is kind of how I think we should do based on our strengths and go from there, versus I'm just a running OC or I'm a passing OC or whatever it is. Like he's willing to move the goalpost, so to speak, and be kind of a amorphous blob.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Exciting.
And then last piece, we brought in Babich, who was our linebackers coach. He was a hot name on the market.
Right.
I'm happy we retained him. That shows me McDermott's going to relinquish some defensive control. And allow somebody else to call plays. And I think he can focus on head coaching. And this will be it. If he doesn't perform this year and get to the AFC Championship game at a minimum, I think it might be time for me, who's been hard pressed to pull the ripcord, to let go of it. So
I think it's fair to say,
I think we've run its course. This is it. We stacked the team one more time, and this iteration will end, and we'll move forward with Josh and some other players without Diggs and all these other guys. So
right,
we'll go from there. But all right, so that'll be what happened next week, and that's all I got today.
All right, dude, go feed Oliver.
Yeah. Can you hear him in the background?
Yeah, he seems like he might be hungry. So
hold up before you go. There's this little guy. Say hi. What's up, dude?
Yeah. I hate cats.
He's a dick. Anyway, all right, everybody. Like, share, and subscribe. We're low on subscribers still. I want to get that up. I promise the content will continue to get better. We'll try to cater it around what's going on today and have some fun things coming up too with quarterback rankings and things like that. I think that'll be something fun to do. So I got that planned on the docket also, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good, buddy.
All right,
guys. Take care.
See ya.